All right. Welcome back, Jeffrey Fox. We missed you in the last episode, so it's good to have you back.
It's a pleasure to be back. It's always a good time.
Yeah, so this is our fourth episode, and we're rocking and rolling. And what's it called? As I mentioned to you earlier, I did have somebody, or a few people, one in particular, that ran something by me. So it's one of those things where he was starting a business, right? Right? And he asked me, do I need to incorporate? Because I'm starting his business. So I wanted to know more about what his business is. And he was basically buying products and white labeling it. You know what that is, right?
Yeah. So like, basically just like, where they let you put your brand on it.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Like if you're buying generic water bottles, right? And then you put your own brand on it, whatever, right? If I did that, I'd just put, I love Jeff Fox, right? And picture of you right there. It would sell millions.
I'll put Samo all over it. I'll put Samo Law Group all over it.
So, yeah.
There's no trademark problems with that, right? Or anything?
No.
Okay.
And I asked him, I said, well, how much have you sold of this product, right? And he said, none. He goes, I sold a couple of my buddies, right? And so I said to him, look, because incorporating in California is very, very expensive, right? You know this, right? And I told him, before you incorporate, why don't you sell at least $100,000 worth of product? Yeah. Then we'll get you incorporated, okay?
Right. I mean, if you sell like 100 products, all your profit just got wiped out by corporation fees.
Exactly.
Like by the filing fees.
Exactly. So. And I always, when someone starts a business, it's like my joke is, so you're dating the business, you know? Yeah. Before we incorporate, AKA getting married, okay? Let's make sure you're serious and, this is going the right direction for you and you're doing it for a while. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The only other example of when you should incorporate, like right out of the gate, is if you have either people investing or you're putting a lot of your own money into it. And, like you're getting a lease in a restaurant or something where you're dumping in a lot of money, then it's worth it to incorporate. But if it's something where let's see how this goes, I recommend wait before you incorporate. Right.
I mean, I guess there's and it comes to liability and stuff like that too, I guess. Like if it's something where you think there's a high chance you get sued, maybe. Right.
Yeah.
Would that be
the thing? Okay. I mean, you could get insurance. It's called business insurance or errors and omissions, which you should get anyway. But if you're starting a business on your own and you're kind of handling it all yourself, even if you incorporate, you could still get sued personally because you're directly involved.
You're like the sole owner LLC or so,
Right. Yeah. So, but if you have employees, then it would be worth it to incorporate because if they screw up and you weren't actively involved, then it's only the corporation that's liable, not you personally.
Oh, yeah. That's smart. Makes sense.
Yeah. And as I understand, you have a history of incorporating, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've probably started 20 plus companies over the last 10 years.
Wow. 20
being in the film industry, like every time you have a film idea and you're trying to find investors for it, like you said, that example where if you're going to find investment, we have to set up a company for each film individually, each project, because, we want people to be able to invest in a single film and not invest in our company and then own all the films that we make forever. Like, you want them to invest in a specific film project. So it has to be its own LLC. You got to do its own, file all the paperwork, do all the taxes, it has to be its own, like you have to do everything for it. So it's like, it's not cheap to do. Like you have to spend the minimum $800 a year or whatever for the
right, and you have to file. The corporation has to file its own taxes, and yes, exactly. And then the banks always gouge the corporations. They, like I said before, if you have a small corporation, the banks treat you like you're Amazon.com, and they charge you for the monthly fees and all that.
It adds up. I mean, even a little $15 a month, like just like having a bank account fee that some banks will charge you. It's like
it goes up. Yep.
And especially if you do 20 of them, like me, those start really adding up.
Look at you. Hey, and the state of California appreciates it. Jeffrey. We'll send you a thank you card at the end of the year. Okay. And, one of the topic I wanted to discuss today, okay, in May of 2015, so it's been 7 years, there was this crazy shootout in Texas between these rival biker gangs.
I think I heard about that. I didn't really follow the story too closely, but that's like just the little bits of news that I heard about it was insane.
See, I mean, me as a lawyer, I love following these things. Like when something big happens, the interest for me is the legal aftermath that takes several years to unfold. Like I follow it. So what happened here is there's these rival biker gangs. And, like I said, they got into some sort of dispute, whether it was a turf war or something else. Yeah. And they just started shooting at each other, right? I mean, it escalated to the point where they're shooting at each other. And 9 bikers died from gunshots. And it was so bad that even when the police got there, they were still shooting. So the police started shooting to get them to stop
shooting.
Right? And they were shooting at the police. I mean, this was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is one of the, it was a mass murder. I mean, 9 people getting shot, right? Yeah. And killed. There was other people got shot. I think 18 were wounded and then 9 died. Okay. And speaking of crazy, the craziest thing is you have 9 murders and 18 people shot, shooting at police, everything, shooting at each other. And there wasn't one person that got busted. Not one.
Like, how does that even happen?
Not one. This is the, when I followed all the legal issues, right? And, because here I am mistakenly thinking, wow, there's going to be 50 people that go to prison, or something, right? And not one of them got busted. It's
crazy.
It is. Okay, so it's kind of to explain this, we have to, it's like the history starts from the 60s, 1960s. All right. The two biker gangs, one was the Banditos and the Cossacks. All right. It's like this crazy turf war.
Yeah.
Okay. The Banditos, they started in 1966. All right. This biker group. Yeah. And it was a lot of Vietnam vets. All right. So, the history, right? I mean, there was a lot of Vietnam vets that came home and, they were rightfully disgruntled. They didn't, the homecoming wasn't very nice back then at all. Right.
Right.
And so a lot of them were disgruntled and, a few of them started, this kind of biker group. Okay. And then Banditos was kind of it's like the Mexican bandits, right? And the theory was like, it was like they were outlaws and they're, before the Wild Wild West and they're, these Mexican bandits. So they were called the Banditos. And these guys, so they formed back then and they started growing this group, the Banditos group, to the point where they have different chapters or charters, I think they might be called.
Okay, yeah.
They have one, like a president, and then they have different charters. Then they have different membership fees. I mean, it grew like to this day. It's a big, organization. It has like maybe 3,000 people.
They still exist. Like
heck yeah, yeah, they're huge, right? And it's crazy.
It gets crazier.
Right? Yes, and they in addition they also have like these charitable events, and they have things where they take kids on rides and stuff. I mean, and they have this cool logo. All right. I mean, these guys are expert in branding. Okay? Yeah. They have this like
the Banditos.
Yeah, the Banditos, and the logo is this like a guy that's holding a machete in one arm and a pistol, and he's got a sombrero, and he's a freaking badass. Looked like me. Like yeah. Right. And so it's like a cool branding. Like, man, we had Fox Media. That's how the branding. These guys were branding experts.
Yeah.
And the other group, same thing. The other other biker gang, okay, the Cossacks. These guys are awesome. Okay. Yeah. I mean, let me walk it through. Same thing. And the history is interesting. They also started in the 1960s in Texas. Okay. And they started, there's a few guys that started, and little by little it kept growing. The Cossacks are the origination of that word, these like from the 15, 16, 1700s. Okay. The Cossacks were these like Russian fighters.
Right.
Okay. And eventually they became, a part of the Russian military. And the Cossacks, the origination was they were these poor, peasants or whatever. Right. And then they kind of formed together, and then they were all like revolutionaries. They started fighting the government, and then they became so powerful when the new government came in that the governments had to deal with the Cossacks. And then so they incorporated the Cossacks into the government. That's how powerful they were. So these guys, that's their name, the Cossacks, So the idea, it's like there's these, and the word in Russian means something like free man, So it's like, wow, that's awesome, So that's, this is just the history behind that group. And same thing as as the Banditos, they have various rules. Like one of the rules is you have to own a Harley Davidson.
Oh,
you know?
yes.
And their branding, they have these really, I call it these cool logos. Same thing. They have this badass
Must
guy
have
with a big machete. Yeah.
Must hired a good marketing company.
Yeah. Exactly.
Imagine being the graphic designer working for one of these like biker gangs.
That would be so cool.
Yeah. Until you
send them my resume.
Yeah. Until you end up in the shootout.
Exactly. Yeah.
they don't like your logo that you give them.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
or you come to them and ask them to pay you.
Man, this is, I had this like goofy comedy screenplay idea a long time ago. Like you come up with these goofy comedy. Yeah. It was like 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like telling these professional writers about it. I think they laughed and they said it was a good idea, but now that I think about it, they were probably just trying to like shoot me off. My idea was, like some big group like ISIS, right? They have all these like soldiers or fighters or whatever the heck they are, right? And then some of them get injured and they have like medical fees and blah, blah, blah. So I had this like idea of a story of this guy who's kind of like he's working in the admin department of ISIS, like something kind of like with these bikers, like they're working in the admin department, where it's like, oh man, this guy broke his leg and now we got to get him the fees and who's paid up on their membership fees and the dues.
The administrative assistant.
Yeah. So it's like he gets caught up and he's not in the gang, but he's like the admin guy, trying to support his family. See, that could be a funny story.
That would be a funny story.
There you go.
I love that.
Okay. That's why you're here, Jeff.
Yeah.
Your 21st corporation. Let's start that. So, because now with the Cossacks, I mean, they have different like charters, all the Hells Angels, all of them, they have different groups in different cities. And then the cities, they have different, their own like organization and their own leadership. And then there's the head president. It's kind of like that's the federal level, right? There's the head president of the Cossacks,
right?
And then there's the individual chapters, and then they have their own president.
The states,
the states, It's kind of like that's just how it is in law. In law, there's like the state of California, then there's the federal government, and a lot of times there is like tension between the federal government and the state of California government, right? So it's the same thing. Yep. In fact, in one of these groups, is in the Banditos, one chapter, like they spun off, they just like the South,
they declared their independence.
They seceded.
They
seceded from the Banditos. Yeah. So, I mean, these groups are, they have, a couple thousand people, a few thousand people, whatever it is. And, they become big shots. One of the heads of the chapters for the Cossacks, he said something and it was quotable, it was in the newspapers and whatnot, when they were asking, well, what the heck is this about? Why are people joining it? How do you have all these like guys joining and stuff? He said, well, we're a brotherhood, and we take care of each other. If one of our guys, his house burns down, all of us are going to take care of him. Yeah. One guy, he dies, we'll take care of the family. So it was this idea of the brotherhood.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder if that says something about like, where we are as a society with like feeling a sense of community and stuff like that, right? Yeah. Like where you're craving a community so badly that you'll join a biker gang.
Exactly. Yeah.
And get into shootouts for it.
Yeah. Well, and this is okay, because I go through that history because then comes in 2015, where these 9 bikers died. Yeah. Okay. And then the fallout. And it's like, I mean, this is so much that I had to write it down to make sure that I kind of explain it right. And this happened in Waco, Texas. Okay. There's some crazy things that have happened in Waco, Texas.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. What was that guy's name? Remember? It was David Koresh. Anyway, this was also in Waco. So, okay. So get this. So there's these different biker gangs, right? And they have, and this is no joke, this is what they do. They meet once or twice a year. The various groups meet. And what they call it is the Confederacy, okay? Because look, the Confederacy still exists in the South. Because what happens is you have all these different governments, right? And, the biker gangs, and they have to, somewhat coexist, right? Right. So what they say is they say, well, it's like the Confederacy, like we're all separate and independent, but we're all like, kind of, we have some similar, areas or some similar kind of things that, that happen to all of us, right?
Some general agreements between the groups.
Yes. Yeah. General agreements. Right. And then maybe if one group is getting out of line, how they're going to they have to keep the Putin of the gang members in check. Right.
Yeah. The one who starts never mind. We'll probably get to that.
Yeah. So, okay. So then the Confederacy, meaning the heads of the different groups and the different groups, they get together once a year in one big meeting, like a convention. Yeah. Right. I can't imagine how they do this. I wonder if during COVID, they just did it via Zoom or something.
A Zoom biker meeting.
A Zoom biker meeting. Right.
Jeez.
Yeah. So they get together. I mean, I don't know how they thought, whatever, maybe they have done this for decades. Okay. So this time it got bad, because there was already this tension between these two biker gangs. Yeah. Right. So in May of 2015, during the meeting of the Confederacy. Yeah. Okay. There was a shootout. What happened? It's a little disputed, but basically, there was already a lot of tension, and then something happened. One story or the main story is that it was it was a dispute over a parking spot, and one guy rammed his bike so fast, it ran over one guy's foot, and then boom, 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 it all started, literally. Yeah. It escalated, and then all these guys, they all have their guns with them and stuff, and it eventually went into a big shootout. And there's video footage of it. Yeah. In fact, we could play it. Yeah. Show right now. For the folks that are here on video, you can see it. Okay. Yeah. So there's a footage of it, and then there was the fallout, and this is where I picked up on the story, okay? Because I didn't know any of this until the legal aftermath, okay? So of the 9 people killed, 6 were Cossacks, and 1 was a Bandito. So I would say the Banditos won that shootout.
Sounds like it, yeah.
And the other 2 were separate, different biker groups.
Oh, okay.
Because remember,
they're still bikers, not civilians.
Yeah, they're not civilians, right? Because this was a meeting of the
biker groups.
The Confederacy, right? Confederacy. And so they had gangs from everywhere, and the ages were from 27 to 65, and okay. So then comes the legal aftermath. Yeah. Okay. So all of that was just the backstory, okay, to the shootout, and then there was the shootout, and then the Joe Samo starting to follow the story. Yeah. And I always, every little thing that happened, I would follow it because it was so interesting to me, and I mistakenly thought that something would happen, and nothing happened. Okay, so this is how it ended up. Originally, they tried to prosecute something like 175 of these bikers. Right. All right, because they found, they confiscated guns. One guy had a machine gun there, right? And they had knives and brass knuckles and chains and everything. So anyway, and there's a rule that if you're just, it's called also, there's association or they call it felony murder rules, things like, so if both me and you are doing something illegal and then there's a shootout, one person dies, just by us being involved in it, we could get busted. Right. Like the rule, if 2 people are robbing a bank and one of them shoots someone, you're both murderers. Yes, exactly. So if all these guys come together and their group is involved in the shootout, as long as they could pin something on somebody. So they tried to prosecute 175 people. They have footage and everything. And then little by little over the years, they kept having to dismiss the criminal cases. All right. And a part of it is the bikers don't talk to cops. Okay. Yeah. I have had clients who would have been off the hook. And by off the hook, meaning they would not have spent 5 years in prison if they had just kept their mouth shut. Right. Okay. I had one guy, he was in Fresno and he got busted. And then, he got busted because he was dealing these it was like some meth or acid or something, right? Yeah. I can't remember off the top. I think it was methamphetamine. Anyway, so he gets busted for dealing it. Okay. And they then searched his house. Right now, his house, his wife lives there and his kids live there. Okay. And his kids were 16, 18, and 19. It was 16, 18, and 19. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So his wife and 3 kids lived there, and the kids were kind of almost adults. Okay. And when the cops arrested him, they simultaneously searched his house because they had a search warrant. Okay. Then in the interrogation room is kind of like this, except the walls are not as cute. And, And anyway, in the interrogation room, they said something like, well, he's talking to them. And it was a Friday, like evening when they arrested him. Mm-hmm. And they said something like, well, look, let's get you home tonight, and just walk us through this and we can get you home and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And then what they said to him, this is the key. They said something like, look, we searched the house and we found all these other drugs. I mean, it was like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of drugs, right? Mm-hmm. And what they said to him is they said, we're about to arrest your wife and kids because your wife and, your 16-year-old was at the house. So we're going to arrest them and bring them in. I don't want to do that to them because it's going to be traumatic. This is the cop talking. Yeah. So just as long as, if you say it's yours, then they're off the hook. They won't get arrested. So guess what he said?
They're all mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't for that comment when he said they're all mine, it would have been tough for them to prove the case against him because whose is it? It's in the house. There's five people that live there. Right. And they had no case against the other people. Right. Because they live in the house, but they didn't have anything. So chances are he ended up serving, he had a 5-year sentence. He served like 3.5. Right. And he just kept his mouth shut. That was the best evidence they had against him was in the interrogation. He just kept talking. Right. And guess what? He didn't go home for that Friday night. Yeah. He stayed till like Monday until the bail was allowed. Right. So they lied to him. Police are allowed to lie.
Absolutely.
People don't know that.
Absolutely.
So these bikers, they're very smart. Yeah. They all know, shut the heck up. Yeah. And if you could believe it, there was like hundreds of people there and none of them talked. Right. None of them informed. I bet they wouldn't even became informants or rats. I bet
they wouldn't even talk about the other gangs. I bet they were like, no, this is like a biker thing. Like I don't even, those people were shooting at me and I'm still not going to talk.
Yeah. It was unbelievable. Yeah. It was unbelievable. Right. And so, and then the other thing, this is where there's some, crazy, or funny legal issues. Okay. Which is this, 75 of them were assigned a public defender. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Because the state has to, if you don't want to get your own lawyer, the state has to get you a lawyer. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there's this weird thing in law. It's called conflict of interest. All right. And in conflict of interest law means one person, if they have a law firm representing them or a public defender, law firm, defending them, then another defendant cannot have the same company representing him.
Okay.
All right. Mm-hmm. So, and then the way it works is there's one public defender office per county because ordinarily when there's a crime, it's just there is one person. Yeah. Right. It's
maybe
not
a
like
pair.
Maybe a pair. A partner. Yeah. So most counties, they have one public defender's office and then they have this other office called the alternate public defender. It's a much smaller office. Yeah. And they usually pick up the second case so that there's no conflict of interest. And those two public defenders' offices are like separate. Okay. So this was 75. Yeah. So then the county, in addition to having
County of Waco didn't have 75
different law firms. Right. No. So what they had to do is they had to go and try to get public defenders from different counties. And at some point they couldn't field enough public defender offices. So if you can't get somebody their own defense lawyer, then guess what?
They have to drop the case.
Yeah, because it's the Sixth Amendment, the right to legal counsel. So if the state can't get it, so a lot of the cases were just dropped just for that reason. It's like we can't get separate. So then
we just don't have enough lawyers. There's just not enough.
We don't have enough law firms, right?
That's great. Yeah, I feel like they should be able to like outsource or like pay like a private defender to do it. Like I don't know. There's got to be something there. But
there is sometimes. They do that. What they do is there's some defense attorneys, and the county will go to a private defense attorney, right? And they will say, hey, can you represent this defendant for the county?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They do that, and then they pay him.
I'm sure they probably looked at those laws and those rules and those kind of things very closely after this case.
Oh, very because look, guess what those lawyers said? They said no. Right. And then so they couldn't get a defense attorney. So they had to drop the case. So even the lawyers were kind of, they weren't in on it, but they kind of, what I'm saying?
I'm not getting involved.
I'm not getting involved in this. Right. So and then coupled with all this is every single one of them started filing civil lawsuits against the county.
Right.
And even people that weren't arrested started filing civil lawsuits. Because sometimes some of the biker, when it first happened, the police didn't know what the heck to do.
Yeah.
So what they did is they arrested every single person there.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they set the bail really high, right? They didn't know what the heck to do, and they didn't know who to arrest. So they just arrested everybody.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that had nothing to do with nothing, right? And the fact they arrested 2 people who were patrons, they were just there at the restaurant.
Yeah.
They weren't even bikers.
Yeah.
They didn't even have anything on.
Yeah.
They just got arrested. So every single person practically filed a civil lawsuit,
right,
saying, "Oh my God, I was in jail for 3 weeks for no reason until my bail was reduced, or this happened." Yeah,
with unreasonable bail or something like that.
Yes. So all these people filed civil lawsuits. So the county was just like
inundated.
Yeah, they were pulling out their hair,
Yeah,
and then just to make matters worse, get this. This is my favorite part of the story. The bikers started organizing mass protests to get the cases dropped. That is the worst protest, when you have these bikers who are all carrying guns, because they have, it's Texas, right? So they're all carrying guns. They're all driving their Harleys and right,
and have
everywhere.
a history of shooting at the police
and
now.
They have the history of shooting at the police, right? And they're protesting, and so that's a tough group to say we want to keep them upset,
right?
Yeah. So that was, So then there was only one trial of one guy, and he was the head of the Bandidos, as I recall. And then it was such a cluster mess. Yeah. The trial. You know what I really want to say? I'm trying to keep it clean. Yeah. Okay. It was a cluster mess. And that trial was even it was a mistrial, it was called. Like, they couldn't even get anything right in that trial, so I had to dismiss that trial. And it cost the county millions of dollars.
I'm sure, just
for that trial, because they had to get the public defenders, they had to get everyone involved, and then they lost it. And they only had one trial. And then ultimately, everything was dropped. Not one person got busted.
It's insane. I mean, that kind of it's almost like shows it. I mean, it's a little scary, because it shows you like that the government has a lot less control than, over things than you think they do. But also that kind of is a little bit alleviating as well, right? Like that, like if they do something bad enough, 1,000 bikers can upset the whole system.
Yep, and they did upset the whole system. I mean, I've had clients that have gotten in more trouble for stealing a t-shirt from Walmart, and that these guys did. I mean, that's just how it ended up. And so it was a great story, huh?
Yeah, that's insane. Like it's definitely a movie. Yeah.
All right. Well, so that's what you're a producer. You've made some movies. What do you think? Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it.
In fact, that's what we're here for. Anyone want to invest, give us a call. No,
I don't think I'm allowed to say that.
Hey, as your lawyer, I could guarantee it's a great investment. Let's make this happen.
God, that's so bad.
Okay. State Bar. That was a joke.
Yeah, that was totally a joke.
I don't want to call the State Bar of California. That was just a joke.
I was like, I don't know. Every time I do, whenever we do funding documents and PPMs and stuff, I'm always here like, you're not allowed to advertise them. You're not allowed to. You can only go to accradited investors.
Yes, and this was all a joke.
This is all a joke. Yeah.
This is the worst idea.
It's my lawyer trying to get me in trouble. No.
Right. Well, that again, like I always tell people, my theory is run it by my lawyer. Yeah. So if anything, don't call me if there's a shootout. Okay? Yeah. I'm not going to get involved.
You don't want to be a public defender?
No. I won't do that. Otherwise, anything, like I always say, anything other than a restaurant bill, if you have to sign something, give me a call, run it by my lawyer. Yeah. Okay. That's why I always tell people. Again, my cell phone number, 619-672-1741. Give me a call if you have any questions. No charge. I'll just talk to you.
Yeah. And I'd always like to hear some more stories on the show too, like some more questions and stuff, like the one about the corporation filings and stuff.
Yes. So. Yeah. So that's, exactly. So if you do have questions, the best part is I could say something like, hey, you know what? Tune into my next show and I'll answer everything.
Yeah.
For you. All right. Good stuff, folks. We're going to try to drop these every Monday. So we'll see you next Monday.
Yeah. Sounds good.